right, guys. Thanks for coming out and following us. Let me start off a couple things internally before we turn our attention to Ohio University. We elected captains. So the 2025 captains, Ethan Kalakmanis is one of them on offense. Gus Salinksis is the other one. We have 4 total. DJ Jabomi is the defensive captain along with Jordan Walker. So those will be our 4 captains for 2025. Really proud of those guys. They've stepped up in a big way. Ethan obviously is a returning captain 2 years in a row. That's a great honor. And, I love our tradition. Jordan Walker, believe it or not, started here as a walk-on. And now we have another walk-on captain that we can put on the wall outside the weight room there. It's a great tradition of walk-on players that have really realized their dreams here. And I think Jordan's going to have a great year and a great career, so excited for him. The other thing in our coaching staff, you probably see a familiar face out there. Isaiah Washington has come back to join us, and we're excited about that. So he's helping us as a player development assistant and doing a great job. So we're thrilled to have him back. Let's turn our attention to Ohio U, right? Defending MAC champions, 3 10-plus win seasons in a row. Certainly a program that has great tradition, great culture. That's what it's built on. It goes back to a long time, right, when Coach Solis was there, and now it's been passed on a few times. And, Coach Smith does a great job in watching, preparing for them. When he was the offensive coordinator, you could see his fingerprints all over it. And now as the head coach, I'm sure there'll be some things that he changes. But you could tell, plus we have Weave on our team, and Weave gives me the inside scoop about, not only what they're doing, but how they do it. And really very complimentary of the program. So, it's definitely a huge challenge. When you look at their offense, their quarterback is got remarkable numbers, right? He's over 2,000 yards, 2,400-plus yards throwing the ball. He's got over 1,000 yards running the ball, right? So that creates a dilemma of sorts. They're going to spread you out, and they're going to do +1 runs. They're going to do I shouldn't call them that. Runs that are a little bit non-conventional, and then they're going to do old-fashioned slamming on in there runs. So there's a lot of offense to prepare for. They have good players. I think Parker Navarro is an outstanding quarterback. If he's 3 inches taller, you're probably watching him at Notre Dame or somewhere. I mean, that's the level of player he is. But that's how he ends up there, is he's not, and then all he does is go out and produce and really make a ton of plays. You watch him play, as the year went on, he got better and better command of the offense last year, and you watch him create, right? Like when a play isn't there, he creates and makes a lot of things happen. So the running back, I'll probably mess up how I pronounce his last name, C.A. Bangora. C.A. is he's a really good back. He had transferred. He had 2 years where he was like, I think, 1,000 and change, and then 800 and change. Then he transferred to Minnesota, and now he's back at Ohio U, and a really good back. Downhill runner, tough runner, a guy that we're going to have to really strap it up, because when the quarterback, they do a lot of zone read. They'll run lead option. They'll do all kinds of things where the quarterback is part of the run game. So you have to make sure that you have every phase covered. Receiver core, 4 of the 5 leading receivers are back. So their leading receiver isn't back, but when you look at them in total, 4 of the 5 are back. So we're going to have our hands full in the secondary. They run well. Again, it's a championship football team. This team, they didn't win the championship by accident last year. They're a very good team. They got a lot of their guys back. They lost some guys just like everybody does in this day and age, but they got a lot of good players back. Their tight end, 85 Williams, is big. He looks like a Big Ten tight end. He's 250-plus pounds, 6'5", can be a factor in the run game and in the pass game. Their wideouts, as I mentioned, 4 of the 5 are back. When you look at them, does somebody stand out? They're all good players. That's why they're leading receivers and they're back. So defensively, it's a little more gray because I'm not exactly sure who's going to be playing what. The secondary is definitely the bulk of their returning players. Adonis Williams, again, they've changed numbers. A lot of guys changed numbers this year, so you'll have to check. But on film, he's number 22 last year. He's a really good player. Tank Pearson, who's 3 interceptions, on the corner. He's fearless, and he's also that as a returner. So he's a really good special teams player as well. And DJ Walker, who's on a lot of the watch lists at safety and a defensive back. So they have that secondary is pretty much intact. And I'd say probably just because they're returners, that's got to be the strength of their defense. But I don't know the guys, a lot of the guys that are going to be playing, so we looked at them at different schools where they were before they came here, and we tried to create kind of a profile on each guy. But the reality is, first game, a lot of new things, new staff, old staff, new staff, right? They have, obviously, Coach Smith is now the head coach. He was the OC. Their DC is the same. But they brought in new coaches, and whenever you do that, you bring in new ideas. So there'll be things that we haven't seen. We just have to be ready for. But as it always goes, it's going to be about how we perform, right? And if that's good enough, then we win. And if it isn't, then we won't win. And that's really what it boils down to. So, with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Coach, in this era of transfer portal, NIL, you've always talked about finding guys who come in with the right cultural fit. Ethan now 2 times a captain in his 2 years here. How did he fit in culturally, and did you think he would fit in quite like this, or did you think there would be an acclimation process when he came in 2 years ago?
Well, yeah, I'm not going to sound like I knew, because the only reason I did know is Coach Shiraka had coached him, and Coach Shiraka had recruited him. So that's how I knew. I wouldn't have known it otherwise. But Coach was very confident that he would be exactly what we were looking for, right? Because remember, there were several guys in the portal, and we chose him, right? Like we looked at a bunch, we knew what we were. There was going to be a competition between Gavin and whoever we brought in, and we chose to go with Ethan. And boy, are we glad! I know I'm glad that we did. And I just, like I said before, he finished the year going like this, and my expectation is that it'll continue to go like this.
What are your thoughts on the change in focus for your team, going from straight training camp to preparing for an opponent?
Yeah, I think it's real important. That's a great question, because I think sometimes if you're not careful, you won't have a clear break in the action. We always do. I learned this early in my career. We take 2 days where the players are away from the coaches after training camp. So when we come back, we start fresh. And, we had already started on Ohio, but then we take a couple days where the players go freshen up. And now they come back, and this is the second game week spent on Ohio. So we've spent a lot of time on Ohio. 2 full weeks will be spent on them before we play. But again, the unknown is what you don't. But making sure you switch gears from training camp mode to game week mode is very important. I think that's a great question.
You mentioned it a little bit before, but what are some of these unique challenges that you face on a week 1 game, but especially a game against a new head coach?
Well, it's kind of sort of a new head coach, right? Because he was the offensive coordinator. The defensive coordinator was there. So like that, where you really think is where the new guys, take a look at where the new staff members are from. What did they do really well there? Now, maybe that's something that they would implement into their scheme. If this guy who, a new coach comes in as an expert on something they did well, that's what I would do, right? If somebody's really good at something, I want to sit down and get clinicked on it, and then see if we can fit it into our package. Does it fit? So that's kind of what we've done. We spent a lot of time doing a lot of investigative work, because you don't know between the coaches that they brought in and the players that they brought in, trying to piece it together. But at the end of the day, we just got to go out and we have to play our brand of football. And there'll be some stuff we're not ready for. That's okay. We just got to adapt as the night goes on.
Greg, big picture question. For the state of the programming, what would you see as a step forward for this team and this program overall this year?
Yeah. I mean, you've been with us for a lot of years, so you know that I don't get into this thing out here, right? To me, it literally is about us getting better every day, incremental improvement. Because as you know, sometimes you get better and it shows, and sometimes you get better and it doesn't show, depending on who the other team is on the sideline across from you. And what we need to make sure is that we get better every day, because we're getting better players each year. That I am convinced of. We're recruiting better players. It's starting to show, right, as those better players get older and more mature, you're starting to see some grown men that, they're not only going to play in the NFL, but they're going to be really good players in the NFL. There's a difference. So I think that is making sure that we develop them every day. And then where that puts us at the end of the year, I think as long as we don't have a catastrophe of injuries, we should have a really good football team if we get better every day by the end of the year. that's the goal. I like our team. I've said that before. I like our staff. We're not close to being where we will be, say, mid-season right now. That I can tell you, especially defensively. Defensively, we're a work in progress because we have new faces, we have new coaches. We've tried to accelerate as much as we can, but you know, I'm a realist when I look at it. Special teams, I feel good. We've had the same coaches in that room for several years now, and I think the players understand exactly what we're doing. So that I'm encouraged with. So we're gonna have to play our style of football each week to have a chance to win.
At some point on Thursday, Bradley Weaver, who's transferred here, is going to play his old team. He's probably going to line up against Cedric Rhodes, who's on his old team after being here. Is that just emblematic of modern-day college football where a situation like that can arise?
Yeah, I think so. You know, I think college football's become more transient even than the NFL, right? Because there's not as much that holds them. Now, who knows? Maybe this revenue share will hold them more. That's yet to be seen. But, yeah, there's definitely a bunch of back and forth. And, you know, I didn't want to lose Shed. I think Shed's a really good player, and I wish we could have kept him. But, you know, you don't always get what you want. So, yeah, if he lines up against them, they're gonna be very familiar with each other because they went against each other for several years at Ohio University.
Going back to what you said about the defense, I guess throughout training camp and now into game week, what did you see from that side of the ball, that unit collectively from week to week? As they made any progress, and then I guess areas where you feel like there needs to be improvement made?
Yeah, they're making progress literally daily. Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, but it's just, you know, when you install a defense, is it similar? Yeah, it's similar, but there's several changes. Zach brought changes, Rob brought changes, and I'm open to hearing the changes, right? But the good thing is they both have a background in this system. So the changes are hopefully things that when they went to other places, like they were running this system at other places. So when they come back, they have some different tweaks that they've done, as I was talking about, you know, with their staff. What do they bring to the table? What does a new coach bring to the table? These guys brought some new things to the table that we've implemented, and combine the variables of some new ideas with some new players. There's a little bit of a learning curve. So we just have to play really hard. What I know is if you play really hard, you can cover up some of those mistakes.
You spoke so highly of Ohio being a championship team and having great standard across the board. How would you say Ohio compares with other teams in the Big Ten? Physically, preparation-wise, everything that kind of stands out.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're a good football team. So, you know, I'm not a guy who's going to say like this, they're like this team or that team, because as we've seen, one week team is this, the next week they're that. But what I can tell you is their consistency. To me, consistency is what really shows that it's a quality program, and they've had consistency. I think they've had one losing season in 16 years, right? So I mean, you talk about consistent, and they're a really good program. They've defeated Power 4 teams. This is nothing new to them, right? They've scared the heck out of a lot of teams, but they've defeated a lot of teams too. So like, we're very aware of who we're playing. We're playing a championship level football team, and some would say, well, you know, why do you want that to open the season? You know, I think it's great because I think it's what we need to do. We need to go play a very tough team and see where we are, right? And I'm sure that's what's going to happen Thursday night.
Oh, Brian Felter's progression and what he means to this line.
Yeah, Brian is he's a leader, he's an attitude guy, and he's a really good football player. So, and I don't know if it's necessarily in that order, but those three things he possesses, and he's a grown man. Like, you know, he's a grown-up. And, you know, you look at some of these kids, you look at Brian's married, he's got a child on the way, and now we got these kids that are walking around, you know, they're 17 years old, and, oh my goodness, I have a car now, you know. So there's definitely a mentorship that's going on there on the field and off the field. But Brian brings a maturity and a toughness to our offensive line that we missed him. Like when he went out last year, we definitely missed him. To have him back is great.
Special teams, you lose Christian Dremel, your returner. You bring a guy in D.T. Sheffield and Dane Partridge, who returned a lot of kicks at their old stops. Do you know who the returner is going to be, and do those guys change your philosophy at all as far as returning kicks from previous years?
Yeah, I mean, I do know who our returners are going to be. We're going to have multiple returners. I think we have guys that can do it. It certainly does make you want to return it a little more, for sure, right? So we're going to mix blocks, returns, kickoff returns. Again, what we try to do, so you understand, like, again, is manage risk and manage opportunity. And, we led the country in kickoff returns 2 years ago, and we ran the ball back, I think, 6 times. So when the 6 times were kicks that we felt were good returnable balls, we ran them back, and you're number 1 in the country in kickoff returns. Now, I know sometimes people say, you could have done this, you could have done that. What they fail to realize is those plays are the most spread out plays in football. So when you're spread out, there's more room for error, right? So if you're not perfect, now all of a sudden the player loses their block. If they're not super disciplined, they'll either shove them in the back or they'll grab them. And now, instead of starting on the 25, you're starting on the 14, the 11, right? Those are devastating plays when you start in that situation when you didn't have to, right? Because you can get the ball to 25 on fair catch, and on punts, make sure you get the ball. When you work so hard to get a third down stop and you make them punt the ball, let's make sure we get the ball back. And if you're going to risk it and you're going to go block a punt, well, then if you rough the punter, okay, high risk, high return. Now, you plug in a really dynamic returner, then maybe you do return it more. Because, again, what is the risk reward, one of those deals. So very good question, though.
Go Steve, Alec, and Christian finish.
You mentioned there's some uncertainty on defense. It seems like this on offense might be, the most cohesive you guys have had. What does that change as far as the ceiling of this team being able to have an explosive offense maybe for the first time since you've been back?
It's a good question with the offense. If we can play to our what I believe our standard is, then I think we can score points. So that was, in the last, the last 6 games of the year, we were over 30 every game and over 42 of them. So that hasn't happened a long time around here. Can we pick up where we left off and go? I don't know that. I know this defense we're playing was very stingy defense, right? They were 11th what were they? I don't want to get the stat wrong, but they were really a fine defense and in scoring defense really good. So it's going to be a clash of wills here. And, the one thing about their defense, they know what they want to do. I mean, you watch the tape, it is what it is, and they're going to do it, and they're going to do it really well, and they're coached really well. Now, they have some new players. Somebody asked about the new era of college football. When you're a program like theirs and you're a program like ours, part of our programs, both of them, are developing players over time. And then they are in the program 3 or 4 years, and here they go. With this change in college football, sometimes you're not going to have that luxury. So how will that affect their defense? How will it affect ours? It's going to be interesting to see.
When we talked throughout the summer, there's been a lot of talk about the offensive line, particularly at tackle. As the game draws near, is there a guy at each position that's kind of stuck out to you at all?
Well, I think the contributors are the same, right? We're just going to have to make a decision. I think we're close, if not done. Same thing at the running back. We're close, if not done. But this is a Wednesday, right? So everything in coaching world is game week days. This is a Wednesday. Tomorrow we'll have some personnel meetings and start to make some decisions. And then certainly by Friday it'll be finalized, and the guys will know how we're going to line up. So, the people are going to be the people. And maybe we may play a few more people on the O-line than we have in the past because 2 reasons. 1, we think we have some guys that are capable. And 2, we want to make sure that we find out who is going to be, when we hit the Big Ten schedule, who's going to be the guys that are ready to roll.
Final question right here.
You mentioned Jordan Walker before. Just at what point did you begin to see him as a player who would be able to make that transition from tight end or wide receiver to defensive end?
Yeah, the tight end, I wish I could tell you that it was a stroke of genius. I had seen him do some things in high school, and Eric Josephs, a personnel guy, said, because he was getting frustrated at tight end, and he was buried in the depth chart and wasn't getting a lot of time. And I just said, why don't we try it at D and see how it goes? And right from the jump, he was a natural. And again, I think he's got a lot of room to improve, and he's pretty good right now. So I think there's a guy that has a chance to do some special things around here. And if you look at him, that's what they're supposed to look like. He's 6'6" or 5", whatever he is, 270 pounds. He's a good-looking specimen. So I'm excited. I'm glad we have him. He's the kind of guy that people come and try to hurt, right, out of your program. So we're fortunate that we have him, and we're going to keep him around. Hey, I want to special shout out to our fans. Last time we saw you, it was a disappointing time out in Arizona. I can't wait to get everybody back here in SHI Stadium, and it's a night game. It's going to be a beautiful night, and just I can tell you this team will play very, very hard, And, we'll find out how good we are Thursday night. But they're going to play their what's off. And that's, as a fan, that's exciting to me to know that my team's going to play that way. So I look forward to seeing everybody out there on Thursday night. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Coach.